They say that sometimes the heart of the market is a distant drum, a low thumping you feel before you hear it. That's what these last few months have been like. Restless nights, a sense of movement beneath the surface, something profound beginning as the world's eyes drift elsewhere. Crypto's bull run has started, and yet this time the room feels empty. No fireworks, no collective roar, just the soft crescendo of numbers quietly rearranging history. If you're new here, I invite you to subscribe to Crypto 101 Central. There's something powerful about following these tides together. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the way the waves crash. And do not forget to ring the bell. In a world where every second matters, notifications mean you will always hear the signal before the noise. Sign up for that pulse, the beat that lets you know. This is the moment. So why do I say the bull run is here, even if it feels invisible? Let me walk you through the story as I have lived and observed it, with attention to the details. Each one a tile in the mosaic of this cryptic landscape. It starts, of all places, with the ISM, the Institute for Supply Management. The numbers. For a prolonged period, the ISM had remained below 50, an unyielding winter stretching back further than most expected. It was a contraction of activity, a manufacturing slowdown, and for crypto, a kind of hibernation. That number became a reference point, below 50, again and again. One of the longest periods of contraction in modern data, and in that stagnation, it would have been easy to believe momentum had disappeared. But then, quietly, something shifted. For multiple consecutive months, the ISM rose above 50. Not just slightly. It moved decisively higher, exceeding expectations and signaling renewed expansion. It was as if the frozen river finally cracked, and beneath it, movement returned. This number carries weight. The ISM acts as a broader signal for risk assets, and historically, major crypto expansions have aligned with periods where it turns upward. It appeared in earlier cycles, and again in the more recent ones. Each time, as ISM began to rise, the broader environment shifted, liquidity, sentiment, and risk appetite followed. There's something almost poetic in how these cycles echo through time. When the business cycle accelerates, so do speculative and growth-driven markets. But this time, that shift comes after an unusually long period of silence. Many stopped paying attention. Yet the structure beneath the surface continued to evolve. And still, this guarantees nothing. Past performance is never certainty, but it matters that even in a restrictive macro environment, Bitcoin managed to push beyond key psychological levels in the past cycle. Not with explosive participation, but quietly, suggesting underlying strength. Would Bitcoin have moved further with stronger liquidity conditions? That question is still open, but as conditions begin to change, the answer may reveal itself. That is why the ISM matters. It reflects something deeper than price. It reflects activity, expansion, and the direction of the broader system. And maybe that's why this moment feels different. A quiet shift rather than a loud one. Analysts have long pointed to this relationship. Bitcoin often aligns more closely with broader economic cycles than with rigid time-based narratives. The idea of fixed cycles tied only to events is appealing, but the data often tells a more complex story. Expansion and contraction, not just time, shape outcomes. Recent years introduced anomalies. Structural shifts in the macro environment extended cycles, altered expectations, and created unfamiliar patterns. That is why the current phase feels different. Less predictable, less synchronized. Now, with signs of expansion returning, the broader cycle may be shifting again. The timing remains uncertain. These processes are not linear. Liquidity often leads, sentiment follows, and price reacts last. If this story is resonating with you, if you feel that shift even slightly, pause for a moment and like this video. It helps more than you think. And if you have your own perspective, leave it below. Different views bring clarity. So what is the ISM, and why does it matter? The ISM Manufacturing Report gathers data from supply executives across industries, new orders, production, employment, inventories, and more. It builds a composite view of economic activity. A reading above 50 signals expansion, below 50 signals contraction. It is not perfect, but it is one of the clearest indicators of direction. When it shifts, markets tend to follow. At the same time, external pressures remain. Geopolitical tensions, macro uncertainty, shifting policy environments, all influence how capital moves. These forces do not act in isolation. They shape liquidity, confidence, and ultimately, risk appetite. Regulation remains another variable. Ongoing discussions continue, with multiple stakeholders involved, each with different incentives. Progress is slow, but it is happening. Clarity, when it comes, will reshape the landscape. So where does that leave the market now? Somewhere between confirmation and uncertainty. On the charts, patterns continue to form. Corrections, consolidations, and structures that resemble previous cycles. Deeper pullbacks remain possible. That has always been part of the process. Markets rarely move in straight lines, but what matters more is the underlying direction. Expansion is beginning to reappear. Conditions are slowly shifting. And historically, those shifts have preceded stronger phases. There are scenarios where momentum accelerates quickly, others where the market continues to move sideways before resolving. Both remain valid possibilities. That is the nature of this environment. Uncertain in the short term, but structured in the long term. If you want to keep following this evolution, stay connected. Because crypto is not just about price. It's about understanding how these systems move, adapt, and grow. The bull run may not feel obvious. Not yet. But sometimes, the biggest moves begin in silence, and those who notice early are simply the ones who were paying attention.